Every little town in Ireland has a performance, for the parade for a parade.
Well, and culturally, they are just much more open to that whole concept community-wise of public performances. I think it's culturally rich for that, which is different than we experience here in the States sometimes. And we have live music here too, but it's just a little bit different in Europe. They're just a little more interested in coming out on a Tuesday night and listening to a group perform, whether it's a parade or a standstill at a band shell in their town.
Hey, Beth, I heard you just got back from China. Tell us
I
about that.
did. I did. It's pretty amazing. I got the opportunity to go to China with as part of a familiarization trip or a FAM trip. That's what a lot of people in our industry call it. And I was able to visit 4 different cities with 19 other tour operators, and we got to experience China in the same way a student would. So we got to see things like the Great Wall of China, the Terracotta Warriors, which if you've never seen that, it's so impressive to see 6,000 warriors that they've unearthed from the ground that the emperor used to protect himself in the afterlife. He had all kinds of things created in terms of soldiers and acrobats and musicians, and students get to tour the pits where they have uncovered these terracotta warriors and the craftsmanship in them, and to know that each one of the faces they designed are different. So no 2 of those 6,000 are the same. It's mind-boggling, especially when you consider how old they are and the technology that was available to the artisans at the time. But there's a lot of opportunities for students to experience China with regard to STEM activities, robotics. There's robotics labs that they're willing to have students come and visit and learn more about AI and how to use AI in city planning as well as in the classroom or not in the classroom, depending on the teacher. And also things like the robotics that can help with things like getting aid to people that might be stranded somewhere that a human maybe isn't able to go, so they can take advantage of those types of technologies and the students can learn hands-on with those robots about how they're programmed, how they're designed, and how they're then implemented. But also a lot of musical and arts opportunities too. There's wood block printing that you can do in Beijing. You can actually perform on the Great Wall of China with your band, which I think would be a pretty cool background if that's what you wanna if you're interested in doing that. I think it's pretty stupendous. Shanghai is a very modern city, a very Western city, and so if your students are looking for a little bit more of a contemporary feel to see how it's the commerce capital of Asia at this point, Shanghai has emerged as that. So there's a lot of money in Shanghai right now, and there's the old part of Shanghai that has a lot of English and French influence, and then the contemporary modern part with a beautiful skyline at night that the students can explore as part of their tour. So I spent 10 days there and we barely scratched the surface, but it was really cool. It's very cool.
Oh. So I hear that the Shanghai also has a Disneyland.
They
And,
do. Shanghai Disney.
so if you're a big Disney follower, the Disneyland is a possibility in Shanghai. They actually have performance opportunities there. And
Yes.
I think they're looking for their first American marching band to march through the streets of Shanghai.
Wouldn't that be cool? Shanghai Disney. You do the Disney parade in Shanghai?
Yeah.
I think that would be the best picture you could bring back.
Yeah,
If you
I got the great opportunity to walk that main street in Shanghai about 4 years ago myself, so,
That's right, you did when we
really
had our group that was ready to head
exciting
there.
location for performances of American students.
Which is great, and I know too that in Beijing, I think there's a Universal Studios too, so, a lot of familiar things that we're used to in the States, they have interpreted to China, to the Chinese market, which, I mean, how cool you 'cause then you could say, "Well, we performed at Universal in Florida and Universal in Beijing."
Right.
So we're multinational, which I think would be a really cool opportunity for most students.
But we also wanna say that that's not a definite add-on to your trip, you know?
No, you don't have to, but
It could be very cultural, it could be great performances, sites throughout the countries.
correct, yes, you don't have to do the tradition or the westernized version in terms of, Universal or Disney, but it is neat to know though that those things are there in case that is something that your group wants to explore. But you can also experience things like high-speed travel with their high-speed rail system, so their trains go fast. There's the bullet train you can take advantage of, but then you can also, meander through quiet, back villages and get to have a panda experience and see where you see their natural habitats, and also a tea plantation where you can see the terraced farms that they use to grow the tea, and then experience growing or brewing it yourself and having that tea ceremony experience, which at least it's not coffee and it's not a Starbucks. It's actually organic and right out of the farm, and you get to experience it fresh, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And the cost of going to China is,
It's comparable at this point to kind of as I go into Europe. It's really not as cost prohibitive as we had anticipated, which I think is going to be a refreshing surprise for a lot of our travelers and a lot of our directors. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with more of them. And of course, obviously, if you want to learn more, contact us and like and follow. But we can definitely put that trip together for you to explore with your students. Performance, educational, and fun.
yeah. And tell us all about the new visa ruling for travelers.
So if anybody's familiar with traveling to China previously, you have to, as a US citizen, you have to obtain a travel visa to visit China and it's usually good for 10 years. And this trip was a 10-day trip. So, we were there for 10 days, but the visas can be difficult to achieve in terms of there's a lot of it's a long form that you have to fill out, and then you have to get it to a consulate and get them to approve it and whatnot. Well, they have loosened up the rules a little bit for travelers to China. If you travel for 10 days to China from the United States, you can depart the US, let's say JFK Airport, fly to Beijing, have your 10-day tour in China, and then as long as you, on your return, go through another country besides going directly back to the United States, you don't need a visa. So you could go from JFK to Beijing, have your tour, then fly from Beijing to, let's say, Toronto, and then fly from Toronto to JFK. You wouldn't need that 10-day, or you wouldn't need the visa. So that eliminates that obstacle for most of our groups, because it can be challenging to get 100 visas completed in a timely fashion and make sure they're all completed correctly, and that everybody answered all the questions correctly and things like that. With with this new process, having this 10-day visa-free entry to China, that opens up a lot of opportunities for a lot of our groups, and you avoid that cost altogether, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What other kinds of locations is Peak traveling with their groups?
Well, I wanna make sure everybody knows that we are the exclusive performance vendor for the Empire State Building in New York City. So choirs can actually come to New York City, and some certain small ensembles as well, to perform in the lobby area. There's a beautiful staircase when you first come in off of 34th, and it is a great location for a lot of the foot traffic to be able to experience your group performing. The staircase provides a natural riser setup for your choir, so your students are cheered going up the side, and it's a great way for them to get a performance that's inside, and then they get to take advantage of the observation deck. But we are the exclusive travel provider for that. So if you want to perform there, you got to make sure you contact Peak Group Travel, and we'll make sure that we get you into a performance spot. Some performance times are limited based on holidays and certain blackout dates, but it's really on a first come, first served basis. So you want to make sure when you want to travel, give us a call so that you make sure that you get your preferred date and time for your performance.
Yeah, and the great thing about the Empire State Building is they do provide a music stand, and they provide a piano,
Yep.
and they also provide sound systems. So if you just want to plug in your tracks, that you can use that. Typically, there's a limit of 60 students, 60 choir students.
Yes.
And yes, we are currently looking at small ensembles, small stringer ensembles, and jazz ensembles to play in the lobby before you travel up into the Empire State Building.
Yeah, it's about a 30-minute performance at the most. You don't have to perform long. Just keeping your repertoire to something that's maybe popular, preferred secular in nature, so that it doesn't, isn't anything too specific, and pleasing to most of the audience that you would get. And it's really neat to watch the crowds that come in, and the visitors that are coming to the Empire State Building. A lot of them stop and take pictures and enjoy the performance, which is really cool to watch. A lot of our students get really excited because they realize that there were a lot of people that actually stopped. I think they thought it was going to be a lot of people that just like looky loo and walk through, but most people stop and listen and are very appreciative. and the staff at the Empire State Building also are very appreciative, and they enjoy the music as well.
Yeah, and if you've ever been to New York City, you will know that it's very difficult to get an indoor performance space.
It
Almost
is.
impossible for instrumental groups, but this is a choir opportunity that we have available to you. The other nice thing about the Empire State Building performance is it works nicely in your schedule because they typically let you perform anytime between 10 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. So I'm sure you could find a good hour and a half to spend at the Empire State Building, half an hour for the performance, and an hour to get up and down from the observation deck.
Which is super convenient, right? It's very hard to have that kind of flexibility in an itinerary, especially with a set performance. So I would and it's a great walk. Walking down towards the Empire State Building and seeing Herald Square, you can pass the Macy's building as you walk that way and take advantage of the sights of New York, which is even, more fun if you plan a holiday or a December visit to New York City. Kind of get you in the mood and in the spirit, and performing then at the Empire State Building and going out on the observation deck when you're finished and taking it all in.
Yeah.
It's a spectacular view.
Yeah. Great.
So, yeah, I know that we've also had some other destinations that we were looking at in terms of Nashville. Nashville seems to be popular still, and internationally. Bruce, are there any other destinations you're seeing as being popular this year?
So we are finding that more and more people are going into the central and western portion of Europe. Prague is a great destination, lots of history in Prague, of course. They're very welcoming for US and other groups to come there and perform. There's some great performance sites there inside churches, auditoriums, and even if you'd like, you could perform in the symphony hall. But
Wow.
Prague is a great stop, and the Prague trip is great if you wanna couple it with Budapest and Vienna,
Oh,
because
okay.
they're really not that far away. Prague to Budapest is a couple hours, Budapest to Vienna is a couple hours, so it's a great maybe 8, 9-day trip, 3 days in each, city, and performance opportunities in every one of them, great activities, sights to see. Of course, in Vienna, you could see all those great performers, the opera house, the
Mm.
composer's cemetery.
On St. Stephen's Cathedral, I think that's in Vienna as well, where Mozart was married and also where his burial mass was. And it's it's remarkable, and to have those performance opportunities for our students there, it's not something that you get in every tour. So having that kind of magical event is pretty cool. And the food, let's not forget how good the food is too. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And of course, St. Stephen's is a performance space for choirs,
uh
which is just amazing, amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Would not want to miss that. If you get the opportunity, and if you contact us, we can build a custom itinerary for you for those three cities. Or if you wanted to explore anything else, just let us know and we can build that too.
Yeah, some of my favorites that we have groups traveling to this year. We have a group traveling from Venice to Rome, stopping in Florence along the way. It's another great destination. Ireland's a great place to go with your marching band if you want to be in the Dublin parade. But
But you said that's a 2-year book though, right?
it's a 2-year book, yeah.
Mhm.
So you really need to get on the list early. But you don't have to go to the Dublin parade. There's every little town in Ireland has a performance for a parade.
Well, and culturally, they are just much more open to that whole concept, community wise, of public performances. I think it's culturally rich for that, which is different than we experience here in the States sometimes. And we have live music here too, but it's just a little bit different in Europe. They're just a little more interested in coming out on a Tuesday night and listening to a group perform, whether it's a parade or a standstill at a band shell in their town.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to mention a program that happens every summer in Scotland, which is called the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh,
This is a great opportunity for dance groups and theater groups. And really what it is you are performing alongside 500 other groups that are in all different venues throughout the city. And basically what we do is we rent a space for you to perform every day in the facility that we do. And
wow.
and and it's It's a great opportunity as a theater kid or a dance kid to be able to experience performances from other people from around the world. It's really a neat experience. It typically happens the entire month of August.
Wow, that's long.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. I mean, it's a great opportunity, and like you said, having that experience with other students from different nationalities, different cultures, different countries, really gives you an exposure to what is theater like there. Is it similar? Is it different? Is it different than how we normally do it? And then also maybe picking up some more skills that you didn't weren't aware of because you see how they do it differently with another group. So, and I think our theater kids sometimes they don't always get the same kind of opportunity. So to hear that they have something dedicated for dance and theater students, I think is pretty special.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Mm.
So one of the other trends I've been noticing with some of our directors, I think, is getting them excited about their own trip. I think sometimes some of our directors feel like I have to do a trip. It's what's expected of me. It's what it is. And I think one of the tips I wanted to share with everybody is that it's really important for the director to be excited about the trip because they'll get a lot more buy-in from the students when they do, and the parents and the administrators. So one of the keys to a successful trip is being your own cheerleader and being the biggest advocate for your program and that particular trip, because I think it makes a huge difference in the attendance that you get, and therefore that can affect like the balance of your performance group, so that it's not just all of your basses and two sopranos and one baritone. You'll have a more well-rounded experience the more students that you have participate.
Right. Yeah.
So it is something that I think a lot of directors might forget, and they think that, well, I picked a place and now I'm good. But they need to actually be enthusiastic too. We can only take you so far. We can't be in your classroom every day. So any kind of thing they can do to cheerlead for their trip, I think is going to be a big feather in their cap, and just to have a much better experience for all the students involved.
And we have a great app for that. It's called Group Spot. It's something that you
Yeah.
can use for free as part of a group travel
Yeah.
trip. It's an app that you can use while you're traveling, but it's also an app you can use prior to your trip. And it's has the ability to have SMS messaging,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
push notifications on your trip. We can put your itinerary onto the app. We can put your rooming list and your bus lists, and you can take attendance with it. It's really easy to use. You can keep your parents informed. It has a photo gallery involved in it, but you can use it prior to the trip, and you can be that cheerleader that you're talking about, and send highlights of what's going to happen on your tour, which is
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep. To have pictures, put a little, just a quick slideshow together of like, here are the four places, the big places that we're going on our trip, or, maybe feature one of the performance locations to get the kids and their families excited about what they're about to embark on and the opportunities that await them. And it doesn't even have to be for a big trip. It could be for, a day trip to get your group excited about what they're going to do when they get there. It can be a huge asset, especially the photos. I think we all love that's part of why I think a lot of us like social media, because we like to scroll and look at pictures and see the places people are visiting and things that they're doing. So taking full advantage of the Group Spot app is really brilliant, and it can be a tool that you use well after you're finished your tour with us. You get it complimentary with our tour, but then if you choose to, you can reach out to Group Spot and have it, permanently as part of your program moving forward, which is great for things like concerts, prepping for any kind of rehearsal schedules, changes in that. And especially if you need to change a location at the last minute, you were supposed to be in gym A and now you're going to be in auditorium B. You can send that kind of push notification out to your group, and they know, they'll all have it, because we all know that everybody has their phone on them pretty much all the time now.
it also has a financial abilities. So if you're looking to collect money for your band program or your choral program, whatever it is, it can do that for you as well
See,
at
now
very reasonable rates.
well, and that's great because then you don't need to worry about having a drawer full of checks or cash in your desk drawer in your office at school. And that's could be a safety situation where you don't want to lose anything or be responsible for that. So having it all conveniently on your app, kind of a no-brainer. And then wire transferring that money to where you need it to go. Makes sense to me. I don't know how teachers do it half the time anyway.
I wouldn't
Or
want.
now you know. It's funny, I think the teachers don't know how we do our job, and we don't know how they do their job sometimes. So we applaud that's why we're a great team, because we do what they don't wanna do, and they do what we don't wanna do, but we all wanna do something positive for students, and that's really what it's all about,
Yeah, for sure.
which is cool. So, have you noticed anything coming up, Bruce, for with regard to any kind of updated safety or security things with our groups? I know that we include safety, overnight security for our groups when they stay overnight at the hotels as part of our packages. Do you have any insight into that?
Well, the main there's two reasons that I think we provide security in the hotel, and the one, of course, is we want to make sure the kids are in their room, safe in their room when you've put them to bed. We want to
Yeah,
make sure they're staying in their room and they're not wandering the hallways or wandering out of their rooms. So that's the number one. We also want the chaperones to be able to sleep and not have to deal with that,
for sure.
and the directors to do that as well. But the other part of it is we also wanna keep people off their floor and
Right.
allow people coming home late, or it's not always that you have total floor usage, sometimes
Yeah.
there's 1 or 2 people in rooms next to your students, and we just wanna make sure those people stay quiet when they're coming home. You know, s Safety and security is really important to us here at Peak Group Travel. You know, when we book our hotels, we're always looking for, where are the elevators situated? Are there windows that can be opened? Are there balconies? If there are balconies, we first ask you if that's something you want. We typically in a ocean town or something like that, there might be a
Right.
balcony, but we don't want the kids to go out on the balcony because you never know what could happen, of course.
Right.
So if we're in a hotel like that, we're making sure that they can lock those balconies. A lot of hotels nowadays have mini bars, so we also make sure that those mini bars are emptied out because we don't want to be charged and we don't want your students to be charged for anything that oh, there's bottled water in the refrigerator, I'm going to use it, or
And it's $8. Right. We don't want them to accidentally fall into a trap.
right. But when we book our buses, it's very important that we know that the bus drivers have their child protection taken care of. We also look at DOT ratings, Department of Transportation ratings, to make sure that this bus company is got all satisfactory marks.
Right,
And
and a good safety track record for, their drivers and their equipment, making sure their equipment is up to speed as well as their drivers, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and often, I will go out and actually look at bus companies and ask them about their how they change their tires and all the and, seeing if they actually have a place where they do maintenance. Because, you could go to a bus company and they don't have a garage. You gotta wonder if they are actually doing any maintenance on their buses. So,
Right.
it's really important to us that we're checking out all our bus companies and such. And we also, all of our vendors we're checking out to some extent as far as making sure that they have all their insurances and that you're covered under them.
Yes, and that is part of what we do at Peak is, we vet those for you, which is an advantage with partnering with us. As a teacher, you've got a lot of things that you're already thinking about, so you don't really necessarily want to have to think about vetting bus companies as well. So it's really beneficial to have a partner like Peak to do that for you, and you can just trust that it's being done, and you can move on with lesson plans or a rehearsal plan for your group, and we've got that covered for you.
Right. Well, and that's really why you want to hire a tour operator.
Right?
You've got a job that's very difficult. You are working with students every day. You have lesson plans to deal with. You have after school activities you're dealing with. You're dealing with a lot of parents. And we want you to know that we are here to do all the stuff that has to do with your trip. So you don't have to worry about it. And again, what I always say is I never want you to have to worry about where the bus driver is and waiting in line to get your tickets and making sure that when we show up at a restaurant, there's food available to you and everything, all the reservations are perfect. The whole idea of hiring a tour operator is that you take care of the kids, you're the chaperone, we take care of you. That's what we're really here for, is we're here to
Absolutely.
take care of you. Yes.
Yes. And we like doing it. it's a great job. We are, I can safely say for the team at Peak that we are committed to that, and we love what we do. And I think it shows in our final product and the experiences that our teachers have, and then all of those smiling faces and watching kids change. I think is the fun one of the fun parts of the job too, is seeing kids at the beginning of a trip and at the end of a trip, and seeing they get a little bit more confident and a little bit more worldly because they've checked into a hotel or if they've boarded a bus or a plane, and you can see them kind of walk a little different when they realize that, hey, I did that, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it might have been, or they just have a little more confidence, and it helps them when they're getting ready to either go on to college or go on a gap year and take some travel experiences on their own. They get to, they know that they can handle it, and that's great to be part of that for the development of those students.
For sure. Yeah. One of the other things that I love to say is we have the best tour specialists out there. They take care of you. That's what they're for as well. We've been planning your trip the whole way, but now you're out on the road, and we have a tour specialist that travels with you to make sure everything is perfect for you. Again, that person is there for any questions you have and making sure everything goes well. But they all love what they do. I do some of it myself. I love seeing the kids and their performances, when they're having fun at the parks. It really makes for the trip to make it, it's a 360-degree perfect experience.
It really is, and it's one of our payoffs, right? We work for a year with emails and phone calls and paper and itineraries and making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and being able to, even peek in on, when our tour specialist takes it across the finish line, so to speak. It's really very rewarding, and I mean, come on, who doesn't wanna do that? You don't get that same kind of fulfillment in every job, so we're very fortunate to get to do this with our students and our fans and our teacher partners, our educator
Yeah, for
partners.
sure.
Have you heard anything more about fundraising this year in terms of, I mean, we're all feeling budget pinches everywhere, I think, so I think fundraising is even more important than ever.
Yeah. So, Peak Group Travel does provide the opportunity for 3 or 4 different fundraising opportunities. Most of them are digital, so what that means is you never have to touch a product. Your students can send out emails and Facebook blasts and Instagram, and hopefully their relatives will buy something from that, and that product then goes directly to those relatives, and you never have to, worry about the cookie dough that goes bad because you didn't make it to the refrigerator in time, or that day that everyone has to show up, and hopefully they show up to pick up the equipment that they're supposed to hand out to all these people. You never have to deal with that because these products go directly to the people they're selling it to. One of the other things I know, that a lot of times a parent or a grandparent just doesn't want to buy those things. They're tired of buying all the cookies and the pretzels and the popcorn and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they want to just give money to your trip. And what we want to say to you is, your students have the opportunity to send out a link in our registration software now, that they can just get the money direct into their account without doing anything except forwarding that link. And that's great because in this world, we were able to give them top dollar for those donations. I think the only thing we charge for maybe is the credit card fee that we have to endure. But if you used one of these fundraising companies, whether it's our fundraising company or another fundraising company, typically when a cash donation is given, a large portion of that cash donation goes into the fundraiser's pocket, which can be from anywhere from 20 to 30%. But we're now able to give them 96% of their money. 96%. That's pretty great.
That's a
Uh,
pretty big amount.
yeah, which again, the 4% covers the credit card charge, but it's a lot of money, and I've seen grandparents give $400 or $500 into people's accounts is a great way to raise money. And, there's
Absolutely.
lots of other ways to raise money too. One of the things that I just heard someone do is they got a bunch of their friends together and they, made a little band and they gave a concert and they had donations and they raised money that way. There's lots of ways you can raise money. You can do babysitting. You can do all sorts of
Yep.
things.
Shovel snow, mow lawns. There's many ways of creating those funds. But I think the convenience of being able to do it online, and sharing that link with so many of your friends, family, and your maybe your parents that didn't want to bring an order form to work, but can just say, "Hey, here's a QR code. Scan this, and it'll go right to my kids' registration if you want to help them out with their trip." It's a great way to stay. And I think the donor feels good about it too because they know that it's going right to the kids' trip and not to something maybe less efficient. So it's super convenient and people can do it from their phone, go back to the phone because everybody loves to be able to just
Right.
click send and it's super convenient and more kids get to travel. There's a lot of kids for most kids, the most students, their school trip is the first time they ever get to go anywhere. For some of them, they've never left their town or their county or their state, let alone their country. And so being able to have access to that kind of travel opportunity and then have a way for it to be financially affordable is momentous for a lot of these kids. I've seen kids that change, that have never been anywhere and they went 2 towns over and their world exploded open. And that's pretty cool for students to have that experience and to know that you could contribute to that a little bit. It's a big
Yeah,
deal.
for sure. Yeah. So as we were saying, it's all about peak group travel being able to give you the teacher as much free time as you can when it comes to your trips, your fundraising, what have you. So we can take care of all that for you and you can do what you do best, which is teach.
Right. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure if we polled all of our teachers that none of them went to school to plan trips. I'm pretty sure that most of them went to school to teach. They went to school because they wanted to impact in the classroom. So, and that's why we exist to help them in this element, in this piece of it,
Right.
which is pretty great.